Hello students, welcome to Trunkie Academy. We are studying about the ecosystem, and in the last class yesterday, we studied about the producer, consumer and decomposer. Okay, how this green plants, photosynthesizing plants, they act as producer, and the energy flow from producer to consumer and then consumer to decomposer. I also told you that decomposer also play a very important role because they are degrading or disintegrating the large macromolecules that is present in the dead bodies of animals and plants into simpler, smaller forms so that it can be again utilized by the new forming plants and animals. Okay, so that breaking down of these macromolecules by decomposers causes of causes the release of smaller molecules, simple organic or inorganic molecules, to be released into the environment or in the soil or in the atmosphere. Okay, so that way the nutrient cycling takes place. While I was discussing about when discussing about this the I mean the consumer and the decomposer producer, I told you that there are three types: primary consumer in case of the consumer, then the secondary consumer and tertiary consumer. So we were discussing, and now very briefly I told you about the food chain. Now I'll tell you what is food chain in detail. Okay, so today we'll start with the food chain and then we'll study about the food web. Okay, food chain. Now this is important for exam. As I told you, decomposer. These are also important with examples. Okay, but this food chain and food web is more important. Okay, food chain. Now, of now first we'll define a food chain is a series of organisms where all the organisms are dependent on next organism. Okay, like I told you while giving you a brief idea about the food chain yesterday, that plant being the producer, that will be eaten by one kind of organism, and that organism is heterotrophic, eating the plant will be again eaten by some other higher trophic level or higher organism, and similarly it will form a food chain, right? So that we'll see as example also. First let us define, write the definition, then we'll go into the detail of the examples. Okay, so organism as a source of food, as a source of food. Okay, the series of organisms take part at various biotic levels to form a food chain. So that means, for example, I told you, like the grass, okay, eaten by some kind of animals. Okay, so for example, um, grasshopper. Okay, then it will be eaten with a frog. Grasshopper will be eaten by the frog. Frog will be eaten by the snake. Okay, and this will be eaten by the eagle. Now this way it is forming a food chain, right? So this is a series of organisms where all the organisms are dependent on next organism as a food, as a source. So this organism is dependent. So this is a series of organisms. Can you see this one? Sorry. This is the forming a series of organisms, right? So here this organism is dependent on this organism as a source of food. This organism is dependent on this organism next Like here we have dependent on next organism, right, as a source of food. This organism is dependent on the next organism as a source of food. This organism is dependent on the next organism as a source of food. So you can say a series of organisms, okay, are dependent on other organisms as a series of as a source of food. So forming a series of organisms, this is the food chain. Okay, producer producers are always first in the food chain. So producer or green plant producers, okay, green plants, green plants are always at the first, are, are at the first, because they will be the first. Obviously they are the producing the food, okay, and main they've got power of utilizing the solar energy, and with the help of that energy they have got power of synthesizing and manufacturing food, right? So they are at the first trophic level, at the first trophic level. So that means producer being the first. So when we say one organism is to the next, so these are actually trophic levels. So when we say next organism as a source of food, that means is the trophic level. So this is one trophic level, this is one trophic level, this is a trophic level. So trophic level means the first trophic level is this one graph, producer. The second trophic level, the third trophic level, the fourth trophic level, the fifth trophic level. So trophic level means the right from the producer being the first trophic level, the next organism and the subsequently the next organisms are serially the trophic level. Okay, trophic level. Trophic means a food level or trophic level. So that way it is called the trophic level, right? So primary consumers or herbivores are at the second trophic level. So primary consumers or or herbivores, because they are the primary, so they are feeding on the plants, so they are herbivores. Okay, herbivores are at the second, are at the are at are at the second trophic level. Okay, so these are always, so in case of this second trophic level, these are the herbivorous organism, or you can say herbivorous animals. They are feeding on the plants or plant parts, okay, and they are at the second trophic level. Okay. Secondary consumers like small carnivores constitute the third trophic level. Okay, so then the secondary consumers, which are then feeding on the second trophic level, that means then primary consumers. Okay, so they become the secondary consumers or small carnivores. Secondary consumers, or you can say small carnivores. Carnivores, okay, constitute the third trophic level. Third trophic level. Okay, so this is how it is. Producer being the first trophic level, second primary consumers or herbivorous animals being the second trophic level, and secondary consumers are small carnivores, they are feeding on the primary consumers or herbivorous animals, okay, small one. So and tertiary consumers are the large carnivores. So they are at the fourth trophic level. So tertiary, tertiary, it may be like fifth or sixth also, depending on the food chain. Okay, so it may be a chain of three trophic level. The food chain may be of a four trophic level. Food chain may be of a five trophic level or six trophic. So it depends on the particular type of food chain. So tertiary consumers are large carnivores, large carnivores form the fourth trophic level, from the fourth trophic level. Okay. Now try to understand this point. When we say this trophic level, okay, the important point to be noted here is that our energy is being transferred from first trophic level to secondary trophic level, because the first trophic level, the plant, the producer, the green plants, when these are eaten as a source of food, the 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 burning of the food in the second trophic level, okay, that that it gives the energy and helps in the growth and development of the animals, which is at the second trophic level as herbivorous animals. So that means energy which was contained, the chemical energy that contained in the chemical in the food, okay, or in the plant as a source of food, that is being transferred to the second trophic level. Again from the second trophic level to third trophic level. Okay, so this is actually the flow of energy. Okay, this is called flow of energy in an ecosystem. Okay, so another point also is the producers have the greatest number of individuals. Okay, producers are large in number because they are being eaten by so many different varieties. So what happens, so at the bottom, if you see the, like, look at this at like a pyramid. Okay, so various trophic level, you'll find that the producers are at the bottom and then the first trophic level. So this way you can see they are at the bottom, and again we see the then the primary consumers. Okay, here you are the producer. Okay, and here the primary consumer, I will like the PC, and then we have got the secondary consumer. So there the number will decrease as we move up. Okay, so what will happen is in case of this secondary consumer, and then we have got the tertiary consumer. Okay, so you can understand by this depiction that producers are large in number. Okay, and the consumers, as we move up, okay, as we go to the higher trophic level, the number will decrease. Okay, because they are less in number, because the availability of these the food for the tertiary, okay, these are it is lesser in number, so again they will be again lesser in number. Okay, so example I'll show you, like grass, like I wrote earlier, grass, then insect, then we have got the frog after this, and then we have got the snake. Okay, so this way we can see this is a forming a trophic level, or a food chain of four trophic level. And again if there is eagle seed, so what will happen, this grass will be large in number. Okay, then insect will be lesser in number as compared to insect, and then again the frog will be lesser in number as compared to the insects, and the snake will be lesser in number as compared to frog, and the eagle will be lesser in number as compared to the snake. So that way we see this is the how the food in the different trophic level and the food chain, they are compared. Okay, now grass is eaten by insects, and the frog eats the insect, which in turn are eaten by the snakes, and eagles eat the snake. So this is the food chain, a common example, simple example of the food chain. Okay, so flow of, as I told you, flow of energy takes place. So this is an important point. As I told you, we are actually observing this, and flow of energy takes place from one component, from one trophic level to from one component or you can say trophic level, okay, one trophic level to another in a food chain, in a food chain, okay. So this is done. So autotrophs capture 1% of energy of sunlight and they convert into chemical energy by manufacturing or synthesizing food. The chemical energy then flows to heterotrophs. As I told you, when the first, I mean the second, sorry, not first, second trophic level, the primary consumer, okay, the herbivores, they are feeding on the plant or plant parts. So the food that is there, okay, contained in the plant or plant part which is there, and the chemical energy contained in that food is then passed to the first, I can say secondary consumer, primary consumer, not secondary consumer, then after the primary consumer. So it is passed to the first consumer, or you can say the primary consumer, okay, second trophic level. So that is how the we see only 1% of the sunlight energy is utilized by the plants for synthesizing food. Just imagine. So how, you know, large quantity of food is coming from the sun, okay. So when green plants are consumed by the primary consumers, a great amount of energy is lost as heat to the environment, and the rest of the energy is used by the body of consumer for digestion, growth, and reproduction. So this is an important point. So first 2 points we'll write. First is the autotrophs, the the autotrophs, the autotrophs, that means green plants, okay, capture, green plants capture only 1%, capture 1% of energy present in sunlight, in sunlight, and convert it into chemical energy, okay. So this is one point. And another point is that when green plants are consumed by the primary consumer, by the primary consumer, a great amount of energy is lost as heat to the environment, and rest of energy is used up by consumer, used up by the body of by the by the body by the body of consumer for digestion, growth, and reproduction. So this is one of the important point to be understand and to be noted. Okay, to be understood and noted because see, when only 1% is actually utilized by the green plants or producer, okay, and this is stored in the food, and when these plants are eaten by or consumed by the primary consumers, okay, a large quantity or you can say a great amount of energy is lost as heat to the environment, and rest only some the remaining amount of energy is used by the body of consumers for digestion, growth, and reproductions. Okay, so there is one kind of calculation or you can say estimation. Okay, so an average, this is the important one, an average of 10% of food 10% of food is turned into its own body, turned into its own body, which is again consumed by secondary consumer. So are you getting my point? The main point is that only 10% of the total energy that has been consumed from the previous, okay, right? For example, the first trophic level is providing a kind of 100% of the food, okay? From that, only 10% is going to the body of the consumer, the primary consumer. And again, in the secondary consumer also. For example, if I tell you, just for the example, I'm telling you that if there is, for example, a producer, okay, the first trophic level, they have got some kind of 1000 kilocalorie, okay, of energy that was consumed from the producer that went to the second trophic level, that is a primary consumer. Okay. So from here, this primary consumer will have, okay, the 10% will be utilized. 10% will be utilized. Okay, this will be utilized, not more than that. The remaining 90% will be lost as heat. This will be lost as heat in the environment. As heat in the environment. Okay, so that means, and the subsequent, even the subsequent trophic level, okay, the same thing will happen. So this is called 10% law that you study in higher classes. So that means, just for the rough estimation, on an average, this has been calculated and this has been estimated that the energy which they are actually acquiring by feeding on the lower trophic level, okay, they are utilizing only 10% of that, okay, in their body for their own, okay, body, and rest remaining 90% is lost as heat in the environment. Okay, so that's the important point. At the fourth trophic level, very less amount of usable energy remains, as the energy which flows from one trophic level to another is very little. Okay, so that is the reason. And another interesting example I'll give you. Okay, this is important to understand because nowadays it's very important to understand. The environmental concern is very important. Whenever we are studying, if you are studying, we must correlate with whatever we are studying in theory with the different examples, okay, that we observe in our day-to-day life, or we have heard of, or we have observed in news or different media, or in the cinema, or in the movies. Okay, so there is another important term called biomagnification. So before I will give go into detail, okay, I'll tell you about some its background, that when there was a green revolution and when the DDT, okay, when for the first time when this DDT was discovered, dichloro difluoro trichloroethane, okay, it's a kind of pesticide, okay. So this pesticide, when it was discovered for the first time, okay, the many farmers, the many people, they used indiscriminately without knowing the consequences of this pesticide, okay, because they are not aware, because this is a harmful pesticide, okay, definitely it will kill the pest, okay. They aimed and targeted to kill the pests which are damaging the crops, but at the same time it is also harming the environment in a very dangerous manner. And what was that is many swift flying birds, they got extinct. This is a very sad story. Swift flying birds got extinct, okay, they become extinct. So now how this is related to extinction of this use of pesticide DDT is related to the extinction of swift flying birds. How is this related? That is the reason, you know, the many people, the scientists say, the biologists and the environmental scientists say, the awareness is very important to make the people aware about the pollution, the harmful effects, the different substances that is creating the pollution in the environment. These are very important, right? So what happens when this DDT is used and the residues that remains on the surface of the plant, so that will leaches down with the help of the rainwater and get mixes with the soil, okay. Then soil microorganisms, they are, along with their food particles, they are also getting in this, they are taking in the this residues of the DDT, okay. So this small organisms, when they are taking their food, they are taking the small organisms, okay. So along with the bacteria or other kind of small organisms, they are also getting, or you can say taking in the DDT pesticide, okay. So what will happen, for example, I tell you, if there is a small organism, okay, and there is a medium sized organism, okay, and there is a large sized organism, and there is the extra large organism. So what will happen, this organism will have, for example, if this is eating one grasshopper, or you can say 3 grasshopper has already ingested some residues of the this DDT. Now this medium sized organism will again eat like frog, so it will eat a frog, but frog is bigger than this grasshopper, so this will eat from 3 frogs, this will eaten 3 frogs will be eaten by this medium sized organism, okay, or maybe 4. So you can see the concentration, the amount or the quantity of this DDT is going to increase in the body of this medium sized organism. Similarly, it will be more in case of the large sized organism, and even more than that will be in the extra large sized organism, right? So what will happen, ultimately the concentration of this residue of the DDT is increasing as we go higher up in the trophic level, right? So what will happen, this is going to and this is particularly very harmful for the animals and the plants both, okay. So what happens when it went till, because when these swift flying birds, when they observe the snakes, frog, or their feed or animals which they feed on, okay, they had already ingested some residues of this DDT, and ultimately they will become extinct by having this DDT. And this, how this interfered this, now you can see this one, this interfered the calcium metabolism, interfered with the calcium metabolism. The eggs were laid with very little or no hard shell, and that was the reason, okay, they become extinct. So there are kind of a hormone which regulates the calcium metabolism in these birds, and that was the reason, mainly because these DDT they blocked the receptors, okay, they blocked the receptors for this calcium regulating hormone. So that is the reason calcium regulating hormone, because this plays a very important role in the formation of eggshell, right? Regulation, calcium regulation. Okay, so calcium regulating or hormone for calcium regulation. So what happens when these DGT entered and ingested into the body? So there is a kind of binding site for hormone. Okay, so when you go to class 11, they will find that these endocrine glands, when they are secreting hormones, these hormones are finding its site or its target cell or target tissue where they have got this binding site, and they bind, and then there is the a kind of some kind of series of reaction, and after that there is a biological response, or you can say physiological action is achieved. Okay, but before that, when this binding site is if not free, okay, if this DDT mimicked, okay, so this DDT, they mimicked, I mean they were structurally same as this, the calcium regulating hormone, so mimicked the structure of calcium hormone, okay, or calcium regulating hormone, calcium regulating hormone in these birds. Regular hormones where in the swift flying birds. Okay, so there was no binding site. That binding site was already occupied by the DDT. So when the hormone were released by the endocrine glands of these swift flying birds, they could not find their binding site because that was already blocked by DDT, and then there was a distortion, and there was interference in the calcium metabolism, and hence the eggs were laid with very little or no hard shell, and the birds could not hatch out. They died, and they became extinct. So now see how this is related with the use of DDT. The many people, they do not understand. Okay, the consequences, the reactions, okay, the actions, these things could not be observed immediately. So some people say, what is the harmful effects of using this kind of chemicals, or what is the harmful when we are using using the water indiscriminately? Okay, there's so many things that is going to harm our environment, harm our planet Earth, or so we have to be very very careful using in using the resources, and using the different types of the resources that is available for us. Okay, it is not the it is not to use indiscriminately. We have to use it very wisely. Okay, so that it will be a kind of sustainable development. When there is the kind of development, it will be sustainable, it will be available for the next generation also. At the same time, okay, when the parasite and the host in interaction, what will happen when the parasite is living inside the host and utilizing that host as a shelter, and the food, getting the food from the host. But the parasites also knows that if I am going to harm to a very greater extent, extremely, then the host will die, and the shelter for that particular parasite will be also not be available, and that particular parasite will also not get the food. Okay, so that parasite knows that, so that will going to harm up to certain extent, so that the host will remain alive, and that parasite will continue to get the shelter and the food. So that is called host parasite infection interaction. That is called host parasite interaction. Okay, so interaction between the host and parasite. So that parasite also knows that to what level I should harm, or what level I should utilize the host, or to draw the nutrition from the host, so that both the host and the parasite will remain alive. So that is called host parasite. Similarly, we should also know, and we must realize how we should use the different resources that is available in our planet Earth. Okay, so that's a very important point. Now we come to the, I told you that another thing is that food web. Okay, now we study about the food web. This was about the food chain. Now we come to the food web. Oh no, sorry, before that I told you the biomagnification. Yes, so this is called the quantity or residue of this DDT got more and more in concentration as it moved to the higher trophic level. Okay, so that is called biomagnification. Okay, to explain that, I gave this example, the extinction of the swift flying bird, right? So this will be the biomagnification, right? Biomagnification. So see, is the process in which maximum, so that means in which maximum um, concentration of chemicals get accumulated. Like as I told you, when they are passing they are feeding, okay, on the different organisms which have already ingested these, so this is going to accumulated in the body, organisms of fourth trophic level, or you can say the last trophic level, okay, trophic level. So this is called the biome. With the residue of that particular substance or the harmful substance which is there present, okay, that is going to be going to increase. There are some other substances also which is increasing in their concentration as we move up in the higher trophic level, but that may not be harmful, okay, but this kind of things like DDT are very very harmful. Now you see how they cause the extinction of swift flying bird, right? So that is the reason we must be aware of using the different artificially synthesized substances, okay, the pesticides and the chemical fertilizers, right? So that is the reason we should be very very careful. Now we come to the next part is the food web. So the food web. So in case of like a food chain, we saw there's a linear chain, like, right? So when we are observing this food chain, we find that there is a producer, there is, and then the first trophic level. After the first trophic level producer, there's the second, third, and fourth trophic level. Okay, but this is a kind of a linear chain. But in case of food web, there is a network. Okay, so that means food web is a network of food chains where all the chains are naturally interconnected, okay. So that means there are so many different, it's forming a network, like, okay, network, because one food chain may be connected with some other food chain also, forming a network. So each organism is generally eaten by two or more kinds of organisms, so that is the reason it forms a food web, okay, or organisms which are are again eaten by several other organisms, so that are forming. So instead of straight food chain, it may be a series, it may form a network, and then it's called the food web, okay. So that is what is it. So flow of energy, it is unidirectional, always from the first trophic level to the last trophic level, or even the fourth trophic level, but never in the backward direction. Is a unidirectional. So flow of energy is unidirectional. Flow of energy is unidirectional. Okay, so that is the point to be noted. So this is about the energy passes from the herbivorous to the consumer, okay, but never to the back to the autotrophs, never to the producer, okay. It is always from the producer to the second trophic level, and then the third trophic level, and the last trophic level. Okay, but never from the higher trophic level to lower trophic level. So that is the unidirectional. Okay, so this is called the unidirectional flow of energy in an ecosystem. Okay, so this was all about the food chain and food web, and also I told you about the biomagnification, right? So thank you for joining and listening today. In the next class we will have some another topic. So till then, goodbye, take care.